All right, let's just jump right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really polarizing piece of internet slang that has sparked a massive, honestly kind of sprawling debate over on the Reddit forum. If you spend any time observing digital nomad or expat communities online, you've probably seen the acronyms fly. But there's one specific label that cuts way deeper than the rest. It sparks these huge arguments about class, economics, and honestly, just human nature itself. So we're going to unpack exactly what this term means, why it makes people so incredibly angry, and what it actually tells us about the modern global economy.
Okay, so what exactly is it? We're talking about LBH, which stands for loser back home. Yeah, it's a pretty heavy accusation. The whole idea revolves around this concept called geographic arbitrage. Basically, earning your money in a strong currency and spending it in a place with a much lower cost of living. But see, the LBH label implies that this economic strategy is kind of just a mask. It suggests that without the magic trick of currency exchange, this person would be utterly unremarkable or maybe even totally failing back in their home country.
Section 1. The LBH label explained. We're going to look at the origins and the specific behaviors that trigger it. To really get the negative stereotype at the heart of this label, look at what Reddit user GilBates2 had to say. They hit the nail on the head. The issue isn't really about what's in someone's bank account back in London or LA. No, it's about the sheer arrogance of certain expats who use their nationality and the purchasing power that comes with it as a totally false badge of superiority. You know the type. It's that attitude of walking into a room and acting like you own the place simply because your home country's GDP happens to be higher.
And look at how user Coolies breaks down the math on this. Think about it. A cashier working a minimum wage shift in the UK can suddenly land in Bangkok and wield the financial equivalent of a top corporate executive. That's sudden, like literally overnight leap in social and financial status. It could be pretty intoxicating. And when that intoxication morphs into arrogance and treating the locals poorly, well, the community pushes back hard. That specific arrogance is exactly what gets hit with the LBH label.
Moving on to Section 2, escaping the hustle culture. Let's look at this as a logical move.
Because hey, for a lot of people, moving abroad isn't about running away from failure at all. It's actually about escaping a broken system. One forum user described feeling like a slave to the landlord and bank back home in a Western city. Picture grinding out 40 to 60-hour work weeks just to afford a noisy, maybe even mold-infested apartment for $1,500 a month. Now, compare that to their new life in Thailand, paying under $1,000 a month for a quiet, spotless luxury condo right in the absolute center of Bangkok. When you put it like that, moving abroad doesn't look like running away from failure. It looks like reclaiming your sanity.
Another user, Gyler Gator, chimes in with these incredibly pragmatic, real-world reasons for leaving the West. I mean, just look at these tangible upgrades. When you factor in flat tax rates of around 10 to 15%, access to world-class, super affordable healthcare, streets that are actually safe to walk at night, and having stunning beaches just a 30-minute drive away, you really kind of have to question the whole premise of the insult. Seriously, why would anyone willingly choose the exhausting, everyday grind of a major Western city over these kinds of everyday benefits?
All right, Section 3, arrogance versus reinvention. Time for a new perspective.
We really have to ask ourselves a fundamental question here. If someone is stuck in a total dead-end situation, realizes the whole game is rigged against them, and simply moves their life online or overseas to find a drastically better quality of life, is labeling them a loser back home actually fair? Or are they just, early adopters of a rapidly changing, borderless global economy?
Which brings us to this fascinating concept of geographic reinvention. One anonymous user just completely nailed it, calling LBH an insult for people who successfully change their fate. As another user, non-deterministic, pointed out on the forum, moving abroad allows you to escape mediocrity and whatever bad situations were holding you back. It literally gives you a blank slate. You can redefine your own goals, your personality, and your future, totally free from the baggage of your past.
I absolutely love this profound piece of wisdom from user Steg88. They remind the forum that they get way, way more out of learning a new language, exploring Thailand, and experiencing almost a second childhood than they ever did from a grueling 9-to-5 back home. They urge people to spend less time policing and labeling everyone else and way more time actually enjoying their own lives. Because, as they put it perfectly, we are all losers in someone else's eyes.
Section 4. Variations of the stereotype. Let's look beyond just the LBH.
So as you might expect, the internet community hasn't just stopped at LBH.
Oh no, they've evolved an entire taxonomy to describe the distinct characters you are practically guaranteed to meet at a Bangkok coffee shop. We know the LBH by now, but the language has evolved to capture this huge, diverse ecosystem of foreigners living in Southeast Asia.
Arguably the funniest and most descriptive one is LHBIA, loser at home, baller in Asia. This captures the absolute exact essence of the guy, who goes from being completely invisible, maybe working a quiet IT job in a great cubicle, never really standing out, to suddenly being the biggest spender in the room. Flashing cash, buying drinks, and living a lifestyle he could literally only dream of back in the West.
But then, actually, you have the dark irony of the WBH, the winners back home. These are folks who had highly successful, lucrative careers. We're talking doctors, lawyers, business owners. They retired wealthy, moved to Thailand, and then, well, completely lost their common sense. The forum is absolutely packed with stories of these winners blowing their hard-earned fortunes on terrible investments, like, buying rundown bars in Pattaya. It just goes to show that success back home definitely does not always translate to street smarts abroad.
Finally, Section 5, the ultimate verdict, what it actually means to win. Ultimately, user Steve Unit really hits the nail on the head here. He argues that hurling the insult LBH might actually say a whole lot more about the insecurities of the accuser than it does about the expat who's just, trying to live their life. If you are truly successful, content, and focused on your own path, you're simply too busy to sit around inventing acronyms to tear down strangers who just happen to move to a different time zone.
So, we're going to leave you with this final thought to ponder as we wrap up this explainer. In a modern world where remote work, digital nomad visas, and global travel are more accessible than they have ever been before, is finding a cheaper, sunnier, and less stressful life a sign of failure? Or is stepping off that traditional treadmill to rewrite your own rules actually the ultimate life hack? Think about it, and keep exploring.